So I was giving it a lot of thought recently, right? The idea of a team game and just how important it is to actually play as a team. Because when I was growing up, right, I would play games with my friends at parks or something, and I guess I would equate them to something like a casual game in a game that has a casual mode, I suppose, where you get a game together and you play the game with just enough levity for it to still remain amicable, but with just enough competitive ferocity to actually merit the goal and the actual experience, right? Like, you have to play hard enough to make it worth your time, right? And what I find very funny, well, actually, I kind of find it sad, but I find it funny from a conceptual standpoint that people online will actually not play with any competitive ferocity at all, right? Like, it's almost as though they choose to ignore the point of the game because they have the ability to all of a sudden, right? Like, in my personal experiences, that's what friendlies are, right? Like, if you think about a Team Fortress 2 2-fort player on one of those like 24/7 servers where it's been set up explicitly so that the point of the game is nullified, you've got players that run around not actually playing the game and trying to be quote-unquote socialable when they're not, and they are actively ignoring the purpose of the game for the sake of something else. And I don't mind that something else as long as it's coupled with everything else. You know, I used to play in a group in a Pre-Fortress 2, in Pre-Fortress 2, sorry, it's a source mod for Team Fortress 2. I used to play in a group called Nailgun World, and that group was incredibly social, and there was a lot of ribbing and a lot of fun, and we would do all these great things together in and out of the game, but whenever we played the game, even with all of those social things occurring, we would still actually play the game. And we always played to win. It was never really something we had to think about that much because it was something that we just did. It was very intuitive, and it was like, it made sense why we would do that because that's what we're there for. We're there to eventually just play the game, right? Even if the maps are stupid, or if we've got that one player on the team that is very good at just wiping out half the other team, we still play, and we still play our hearts out, right? I don't see that in a game like Team Fortress 2, and it really bothers me because the only place I can go to for something like that anymore is source mods or sub-communities in those source mods or the base game that are inherently more competitively driven, like competitive in the sense that a lot of casual players don't like, right? Like the quote-unquote e-sporty competitive, where that's another thing too. A lot of casual players and a lot of people on YouTube too will very much poison the well with this kind of conversation where they'll say that competitive players ruins TF2 or that their idea of the game isn't loyal to what the game actually is. And I'd actually argue that a lot of competitive players very much have a better idea of what the game actually is than a lot of casual players, right? Because they actually play as a team. They don't play as individual entities that happen to be on a team that do that stupid pub push phenomenon, right? They actually organize games as a team. And I've played Sixes and Highlander before, and the one thing that really made that experience worth it was the people who were there to actually play the game. And it made the experience refreshing. Even though I thought the ban lists were stupid, and even though I thought that especially in Sixes, even though I thought the variety of gameplay was extraordinarily limited in terms of a meta so stringent and clamped down, basically, that contesting it was very difficult to bring up in a semi-rational conversation or like even an informal conversation, there was still something to be said for the experience of actually playing on a team. And that was something that, from all my research and from the stories I've heard from people online, that's something that TF2 was able to provide naturally, because back in 2007 even, people still had a pretty good idea of what it actually meant to play on a team in a team game. And it never really needed to be explained, right? Because you had other online examples of stuff like that, right? Other games where people would just naturally know how to play on a team and communicate with one another, like Counter-Strike Source or Halo 2 and 3, I'm pretty sure. And then there's a couple other games I'm forgetting off the top of my head right now. But the whole point for me bringing this up, and the reason why I'm talking about this, is because I was watching some YouTube recently, and I came across some Team Fortress Classic frag movies, some old montages from way back in the day when people would post videos on their own websites to like promote their clans or something. That's another thing, clans, groups of people that would organize games together to actually play together as teams or as friendly games, you know? That's something that I just don't see very much of in TF2 anymore either. You see it with YouTubers, like that 6-man clique, what do they call themselves? The Chuckle Nuts, I think? I guess you could call that a clan, but it's not really a clan, because it's not the spirit isn't there. They're not really a clan for the game as much as they are for the views. At least that's how I observe their behavior. They really don't seem like they're doing anything contributing towards the actual goals of the game, but perhaps people will disagree with that. Anyways, the Team Fortress Classic frag movies that I was watching were incredible, because there was this distinct, I don't know how to use words that have been sort of brain rotted, but there was this distinct aura about the videos that glorified the quality of the game itself and glorified the act of actually playing with some intention to win. Right? Like, you had the competitive teams and their clans, and then you had other clans and their epic frag movies, and it was really cool. And people would put a lot of time and effort into editing those from the demo files or from individual recordings, right? And TFC, you know, it's a completely different game. The class balancing is completely different, and I know that stuff works differently in that game, but even still, the way they glorify the game through the victories that can be achieved makes it so much more appealing to look at than Team Fortress 2, where people will get mad at you when you even try to achieve something like that. Like, I've been playing a lot of Medic recently, and the most difficult part about him is that his entire class function relies on people who actually want to play the game. And so for every one game where I can rally the troops and, you know, sort of help lead people to victory, I get 10 games where people are yelling at me for daring to insinuate that we should push towards the point at all. And a lot of people don't like it because they're like, oh my gosh, why can't you just have fun? And that's a really horrible argument, because it completely misdefines what it actually means to have fun. It tries to make objective the inherently subjective experience, I suppose, of having fun. But even then, like, you can objectively quantify fun, but that's not what they're doing. They are instead getting mad at me for encroaching on their idea of fun, when my idea of fun, I suppose, is perhaps the more aligned one. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the one who's less aligned with what actual fun is. But nobody ever bothers to talk about that or, you know, rationalize it. Like, with people I know on Discord, nobody really gives it the time to really talk about this sort of thing, and it's quite frustrating. It's really disappointing, actually, because it's this sort of thing that really, really makes me want to quit the game altogether, and I probably will fairly soon. I've got a couple more projects to do for it, just to, like, return some favors, but I think that once I'm done with those, I might actually just quit TF2 altogether and move on to Team Fortress Classic, maybe even find Quake Team Fortress again, and then other source mod projects. I know that Fortress Forever looks really enticing. I want to go back to pre-Fortress 2 and try to, you know, rejuvenate some actual player base there, since I'm not fairly certain about the state of it, but it hasn't been nearly as active or functioning ever since Nailgun World was banned from there. And then Team Fortress 2 Classic's competitive scene is really great because all weapons are allowed and all tactics are allowed, and it's just however many people you can get in a game all at once. You can pick whatever classes you want and then just jump right in. I think there's class restrictions when there's a certain number of players, like you can't have a heavy medic combo on 4v4 because it's too slow, or there's like a way in which they lock down too quickly. But I very much want to go back to doing something like that, because that is experiencing a team game in a fashion that's actually worth my time and the time of other people who play with me. I don't like playing team games without really feeling like I'm on a team. And I know that sounds incredibly subjective, but I think that Team Fortress 2 once provided the experience where it was capable to feel as though you were being on a team with other people. And I still get moments like that here and there, but they're very isolated and they're very few and far between. And it's difficult to... How do I put this? It's really difficult to just get the idea that I'm actually playing with a lot of people towards a specific objective. It feels like I'm just playing at this point to waste my time. To play because I want to say that I love the game when I really don't. And I think in the end I'm just playing at this point because I'm bored. And I feel like there's nothing better to do when I have many games that I should actually be playing and learning a lot more about. I want to get back into Need for Speed. I want to really get good at Classic Doom. I want to play through all the Quake games properly because I haven't finished Quake 1. I want to play all the Halo games because, believe it or not, I've basically never touched Halo before. I think I played Halo 1 on the Master Chief Collection once, like 2 years ago. And I got like 2 achievements and then just sort of never really touched it again because I just never got around to it. And there's a lot of things that I want to do, and there's a lot of projects, a lot of videos, a lot of really good videos that I want to make. And I think that at this point, being part of TF2's world hinders me because the ethical quandaries of the gameplay and the culture of the people are irresolvable at this point. Like, it got to the point where interviewing a bot hoster, which I'll be posting pretty soon, wound up producing a much more honest conversation about him and his own personhood and the way he views the game than the majority of casual players I've met online. Like, a bot hoster had a more intellectually honest conversation with me than actual legit players. That is stupid. That's horrible. And I don't want to be a part of a game that really festers that sort of culture. And it's super disappointing and sad. And I am sticking around like for a little longer because there are favors I need to complete for people, and there's people I gotta help out with other things. But, you know, once all my favors are done, I don't ever want to touch this game again. It brings me nothing but trouble, and watching YouTube videos at this point is one of the most distasteful experiences. Like, once El Maxo retired and all his really good videos sort of went away, I suddenly was exposed to this side of TF2 YouTube where everyone forgets what the game actually is and where their skill issues actually are, and instead make all of their videos in the lens of how they wish the game would be in a fan fiction type of sense. Like remaking old maps, complaining about old maps, why this weapon doesn't work or why this map sucked, what class is the weakest or strongest, and there's so many things that they try to discuss in a vacuum as if that's even relevant, and then when they actually apply it in context, they say, oh, look, this works great, and they're using their own YouTube audience as beta testers, knowing full well that they already have the bias to agree with them. And it's completely dishonest. It's completely dishonest work all the way around. People like Great Blue and The What Show, completely dishonest people. And I mean, even people who are honest about some things can't even get it right with other things, and you'd expect them to. Like Zesty Jesus knows exactly what he's talking about when it comes to cosmetics and immersion within the game from an art style standpoint, and even map design to some degree, but then he has these massive complaints about Sniper that are completely unfounded, which is like pretty common on TF2 YouTube nowadays, because everyone has something to complain about with Sniper, because they all suffer from the God King skill issue. But it's stuff like that too, and I don't want to be a part of a game culture that does that. They eat themselves alive, and at this point it's gotten to the point where they, in their awful behavior and their insistence to make sure I don't get away from it, right? Like in the persistent algorithmic way in which they make themselves impossible to ignore, it makes me wish that the game died, or had died, or can die right now. Like, I wish... Sometimes I find myself wishing that TF2 just would stop. Like, that the microeconomy would disappear, and all the game servers would be shut down, and the game would just be never playable again. Like, sometimes I really wish that was the case, because it's so impossible to talk to people about anything in a rational, objective lens anymore, because there's so much axiological hedonism. There's so much just absolute pursuit for self-gratification without any concept of striving at least mildly for a goal higher than your own, even if it's something super basic and something that I've grown with my whole life, like cohesion with your team and actually working to capture the flag. You know, when I played Capture the Flag with my friends at parks, you know, we would actually play, and we wouldn't just like stand around and not do stuff. But suddenly when it's on a computer game, and once it's on the internet, you suddenly have the ability to just forget about it, and you can just not play, because you have the ability to choose not to play. And therefore, anyone telling you that you probably should play to make it worth your time is encroaching on your freedom, your personal freedom, and the way you play the game and the way you have fun, and all this stupid stuff. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. I know this is a bit of a not so objective, kind of informal rant. I just need to get this off my chest, because I've been pondering this for the last month now, and I haven't had the time to sit down and think about this, because unlike a lot of players, I actually do stuff with my life. I just got a new job that I don't really know if I like or not. I don't think I'd like it at all, actually, but I have to have it because it's the only job that has actually given me a chance in the last 500 that I've applied to. And I'm looking to get married in December, so I need to kind of reprioritize everything in my life around that, and to actually take care of the woman I love and our future children, you know? And I have to think about all these things, and being bogged down by being involved in stupid drama over a game that has completely lost its vision basically after 2010, arguably earlier than that, and like arguing with people who think they know what they're talking about, and they very obviously don't, is the biggest waste of time right now. People in the TF2 world, almost everyone, and there are some people who are good, but almost everyone sucks. And no one is worth talking to right now. No one is worth being around. And it's really sucky, because I looked up to a lot of them. I looked up to YouTubers, and I used to just blindly believe whatever YouTubers said, because they were popular, so they had to be right. Because why would they have gotten popular by making content out of lies? And then when El Maxo retired, I started watching videos that actually contradicted one another in viewpoints. And I was like, oh. And there was a final point I wanted to make about this. I sort of wrote down on my phone in fragmented text notes. So if it sounds a little not pieced so well together, I apologize, but I just need to get the thoughts out. The reason why people who insist on individual gratification play team games instead of single-player or deathmatch games is because playing on a team hides their poor skill. Okay, so this is something I was talking about with a couple friends of mine, actually, is that people on team games nowadays more than ever will strive so stringently, or it's not stringently, strongly for self-gratification. Like, they will strive for the personal pleasure that only they get out of the game, right? And it's weird that they would play a team game to do that, because a team game is all about actually working with the team to complete the objective, not working as a one-man unit. Like, if working as a one-man unit was really what you wanted, why not go play Doom? Why not just boot up Doom, type in IDKFA, and just run wild? Or why not play some kind of deathmatch? Why not play traditional Quake deathmatch or something like that? And the reason why they don't play deathmatch or single-player games is because playing on a team hides their poor skill, or their, suboptimal skill, in such a fashion that if they do anything that marginally moves the objective forward or keeps the game going at all, they have deceived themselves into thinking that that's good enough for gameplay, and they don't need to worry about anything else, right? Like, they've fulfilled their quota by doing something that marginally gets them where they want to be. And in doing so, they can sort of enable themselves not to feel bad about themselves. It's completely selfish and kind of stupid. Many times when I was an abject gaming hedonist, did I play poorly and behaved with no sportsmanship, yet the only kill I got just so happened to nudge the game forward to victory. It wasn't skill or team effort that won the game, it was luck. On a team, mistakes are masked because it's not only one's life on the line. Yet with a game like TF2, its design since 2010 and onwards has catered more and more towards the individual that just happens to play on a team. And when Valve tried to re-incentivize team play and achieving game objectives, it was executed with mechanics and context and subtext that failed to hearken whatsoever to what made Team Fortress as a franchise so good before. And see, this is what I'm referring to Meet Your Match, right? And before people get huffy, I don't like Meet Your Match. I think it was a really awful update. But the one thing I respect it for trying was trying to enforce some kind of team play back into the game. But it did it in such a horrible way that it might as well have not even tried. So why play team games when so individually focused on a method of fun that is perverse to the context of team games? Because it's easy. It's easy to hide. It's easy to pretend that you're contributing towards a greater goal, quote-unquote, passively. It's easy to say that you're having fun when, in the perverted sense of team sports, one can only give 10% and insist on having fun because they're not nearly as directly challenged as they would be in ultraviolence or on deathmatch. And then if people can contest it further, I just realized if people were to contest it further, their response would simply be, well, I'm just having fun. Don't impede upon my fun. I can only give 10%, and that's fine because I'm having fun. It's not how fun works. By nature of other people who may indeed put more effort in and do the dirty work existing, they convince themselves that the natural incentive is secondary or even non-existent, all so that they can say that they had fun. And by natural incentive, I mean the natural incentive of victory. But dare they be challenged and punished, and the accusations of being a tryhard or a compy fall like rain, because how dare you impede upon my false flag fun by just playing the game as competently as the developers hoped or intended. Dare to show the bare minimum of competence, and you don't like fun, or don't like others having fun. They paint you as villainous or sadistic, and all because you play the game or at least aim better than them as sniper or something. It is pathetic at its core. It is textbook loser talk. And I don't want to be a part of the loser talk anymore. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. And I have grown to resent the game as a whole tremendously. Because it has become impossible to separate the people who make stupid videos about the game from the game. Because those videos are so much more popular than the game actually is. The game maybe has like 15,000 players, active players, really active players across the world today. But a stupid video about redoing 2 Fort gets like more than 500,000 views in a month. That's ridiculous. And then people who are social in game will talk about, ideas that they parrot from those videos and get mad when you contest it because, my favorite YouTuber said this, so you have to be wrong because he's a YouTuber and you're not. It's so dishonest, and I'm done with it. I will be quitting soon. When? I don't know, but soon. Because I don't want to exist in a world where this kind of dishonesty is the status quo for any second longer than I have to. And I would encourage everyone else to do the same. Because until some kind of great reform occurs in the morale of this game, the very people who play this game don't actually make the game worth sticking around for. They actually make it worth letting rot.